protecting Americans from harmful medical debt, as you point out, and as your predecessors also pointed out as a priority for this committee and for the CFPB. Earlier this year, Experian and Equifax and TransUnion announced they'd no longer include some forms of medical debt on consumer credit reports. But according to a recent report that your office released, it sounds like the changes announced by industry won't be as meaningful, make as meaningful a difference as we had expected going in. Your report said, quote, in terms of dollar amount, a large majority of reported medical collections likely will still remain. My question is, your report clearly indicates the changes on how medical debt is reported are not enough. How do we make sure that medical debt on credit reports is not crippling far too many Ohio, Pennsylvania, and American families?
Well, medical debt is one of the top items now in terms of collections on consumer credit reports, and it is a major challenge when it comes to accuracy. You know, oftentimes providers, patients, and insurance companies are going round and round. And in many cases, consumers are being asked to pay something they already paid or never owed in the first place. So we have to make sure that credit reports are not a tool to coerce someone into paying something that they don't owe. Accuracy issues in credit reporting are very, very acute in medical debt. We're going to continue to look at ways to make sure that medical debt does not, especially when it's inaccurately reported, does not really harm a person's ability to participate in the economy.
Thank you. Good, important answer. To ensure consumers keep their money where it belongs in their purses and their wallets, the CFPB issued guidance advising financial institutions that surprise overdraft fees may be unfair and unlawful. How are consumers being harmed by surprised overdraft fees?
Well, sometimes a consumer might expect just one overdraft fee, and then they see they get 3 or 4, even when their balance showed that they had enough money in their account. This is the type of overdraft practice where on the back end, there can be not just mischief, but illegal practices. We have taken action. Other regulators have done so as well. And in some cases, institutions have ignored repeated warnings and decided to do it anyway. And we are committed to holding them accountable.
Did industry request additional guidelines on this matter?
Industry is actually always looking for more information and more clarity. It's one of the reasons why the CFPB has published so many advisory opinions and other interpretations. We've continued the practice from my predecessor, Director Kraninger, on the advisory opinion program, and we'll continue to do so. Of course, guidance does not create any new legal requirements, but it seeks to provide transparency on obligations under existing law.
And it speaks to, you are criticized, as you know, by a number of particularly conservative lawmakers and interest groups, but it does point to how you have tried to build as cooperative relationship with people as you possibly can. And I think on that it shows.
Yeah, I think there has been sometimes the term regulation by enforcement. And of course, we have to enforce existing law, but where we can provide more information about what law-abiding businesses are trying to make good faith efforts to comply, we're going to do that. They might not always like what existing laws require of them, but of course, that's one of the best ways we seek to also protect law-abiding businesses and help them.
Thank you. One last question. Some 50 years after passing the Fair Housing Act, 40 years after fair lending laws, we know that redlining still exists in our housing system. In July, CFPB helped identify one lender in Philadelphia that, through its office locations, through its lending, and through the racist language of its employees, showed a clear pattern of discrimination. Because of CFPB's actions, more borrowers in communities of color will have access to a mortgage. So my question is, how's CFPB working with DOJ and other agencies to make sure everyone has equal access to mortgage credit?
Well, one of the great things about that action in Philadelphia was that it was not just the CFPB, but also the 3 state attorneys general of the Philadelphia metropolitan area also participated because their counties were impacted too. The Department of Justice and the Attorney General of the United States have a redlining initiative, and we're not just looking at traditional forms of redlining, but also digital redlining as well. And there's much more work to do there.